Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to our today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about a very interesting situation developing regarding Dr. Egon Cholakian. Russian state media just won't shut up about him, but what they are saying is more bizarre than anything you would expect. I'm just going to play you this short clip of Russian state media trying to convince Russian population that Egon Cholakian does not exist and they should not listen to whatever he has to say.
However, that's not all, since deepfakes, as it turns out, are even being used to proclaim the end of the world.
So deepfakes, right? He right away says that this is a deepfake in the beginning of the clip. Now,
you may have come across this figure somewhere on YouTube or TikTok. He's referred to variously as an American physicist, a White House lobbyist, or even an intelligence expert. In short, it's total nonsense.
So what is total nonsense?
In short,
basically, yeah, like Russian state media, they cannot disprove or argue any talking points that Egon brings up in his videos. Like they cannot do that. So they trying to smear him by saying he's not real or his credentials are not real. Well, that doesn't seem too convincing when they trying to play the public like that. But let's hear more.
But Radovka has already connected the dots.
Okay, so they already connected the dots. So Russian viewers, you don't have to think at all. They connected the dots for you.
Reporting that Egon Cholakian doesn't actually exist.
Oh, wow. So he doesn't exist. So first they say his credentials don't make sense. Now they saying he doesn't exist. Okay.
And that his virtual persona was created by Ukrainian cultists.
Oh, wow. So cultists.
Ukrainian nonetheless.
Ukrainian, yes, of course, because if you want to make this demonization picture even scarier, of course, you have to bring up someone you already demonized in Russian state media.
Right, and, that image has already been planted.
Yes, that's how you basically create this narrative. Before invasion, it took them like a decade to demonize Ukrainians, and now to say that Egon Cholakian is not real, they first of all saying it's created by cultists, and second of all, it's Ukrainian cultists to make it even scarier for you Russians. Definitely don't watch this video. Oh, here's another one. So that's another state media channel, like one of the biggest ones. Let's hear what this guy has to say.
The investigation.
By the way, the text says sophisticated trick, sophisticated lies, right on the screen.
The investigation revealed there is no person matching the biography of the Doctor of Science.
So apparently there was investigation, right? And here he starts with investigation was conducted. So what's the investigation? Did you look into what he has to say? What is the investigation about?
Experts call the deepfake created by the cultists one of the most sophisticated digital manipulations in history.
There it is.
I think I heard that somewhere before.
Yeah, and it's again like we connected the dots. The experts concluded no evidence, no nothing, created by the cultists, like the same exact rhetoric throughout all the videos.
It's almost like somebody called them from Kremlin and said, this is something you have to run on your channel. Like, it reminds me of some of the videos where multiple talking heads were repeating the same script over and over again.
Yeah, it has all the different news stations and they're just saying the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, but this is not even the same network. Like these supposed to be independent state media, right? But they're all either state-owned or oligarch-owned, but they're all controlled from the one guy from Kremlin who can call them and say, this is what you're talking about, this is what you're not talking about. So apparently in this case, they're talking about how this is a deep fake, but they're not saying a single word about what he actually has to say to Russians, because in many of his addresses, he is directing his certain parts of the message directly to the Russian audience.
Overall, the character is Russophobic, yet strangely mysterious.
Russophobic. Like supposedly he is against Russians, right? Like, how is he Russophobic? He was trying to break through to Russian audience to warn them about the threat that they are living on a ticking bomb
Right.
of the Russian plume, of Siberian plume.
He's trying to save the people that live there. He's trying to save their lives. And all of a sudden he's scared. Now he's scared of them.
At the very same time, there are
Right.
plenty of smaller media channels who are actually talking about him with facts. Like they actually reporting, and this is surprising because I would assume all media, but apparently big ones are controlled by somebody from Kremlin. They really run in the campaign as they have been told. He's a fake, he's a deepfake, don't listen to him. But there are dozens of smaller channels that are actually reporting that there is a scientist, he's affiliated with Harvard, and he is warning about the rise of magmatic plume, about the acceleration of axis of the planet Earth, and so on. So yeah, so smaller media which are not affiliated with big corporations, they're talking about Egon Cholakian as Harvard University physicist, and the way he describes that there is a real threat about the acceleration of the core. So apparently, as there is no one capable of doing the job in Russian state media, there are some experts here in the US who took like 3 seconds to debunk the whole narrative about AI, about Egan being not real, and so on. Let's check this clip and let's see how easily they prove that Egan is real.
So here are 4 frames taken 30 minutes apart, basically. So you can see the
It
cameras.
does move, and the camera does move.
The camera's adjustment, now we can see difference maps here, overlaying every 30 minutes.
Difference maps are cool because it's like if the pixel is the exact same as the pixel underneath it, it'll go to black.
So that's the same frame, that's what a difference map on the same frame looks like. Now, half hour apart here, difference map, so you can see all the things that moved in the frame there. So you can see his whole body's shifted, his hands have shifted, the camera's moved a tiny bit here. If these were static images that were identical, they would effectively be black. And then we see it all over the background, which is the contrast of the compression that's happening in the video, which is why we're seeing all that stuff back there.
And that's normal compression you would see from video for something like this. You
Exactly.
see the larger blocks in the flat areas of color and the tinier blocks in the tighter areas of detail.
And like, yes, theoretically, you know, you could fudge this stuff, but you look at this and you're like, oh, that's actually just very subtle natural motions here. That we're seeing fingers and hands actually being revealed here. There's no funny business happening down there. It's just natural motion.
My first impression when we saw this is that this is basically the same technology used in the Harry Potter Balenciaga videos. But you wouldn't have a subtle camera motion. You wouldn't have the whole person shift to the side a little bit. This man's Adam's apple dancing.
No, it is
like,
down. So here are 4 frames taken.
Yeah,
There it
so
is.
Adam's apple is moving, you know, the whole frame is shifting. There is no funny business with the hands or coloring, and you can clearly see, like with facts, right? Anyone can replicate this test. Anyone can do the test with a visual noise and basically prove that this is real. Like, it's super easy thing to do. There is nothing that's not a rocket science. So, but apparently it is impossible for Russian state media to do this simple test. Would you
Yeah.
believe that?
Yeah, I noticed in my comment section of like sharing some of Aegon's videos, I'll find Americans, you know, people that have watched Aegon's videos and know of him, but you know, they hear they see some YouTube bloggers or, you know, and we know how sophisticated Russian propaganda can really be. Who knows who they reached out to and who they paid or what incentive they gave to popular bloggers to pull up Aegon's video and make a series about how he's AI and what does that essentially do? It takes one, Americans are very conspiratorial. We know we've been lied to about many things, so it's hard to trust when we see a man in suit and tie, right? Especially delivering such critical information like Aegon's delivering. So, you know, we see another, you know, person that maybe this blogger's trusted, has a big audience, whatever it may be, and does some things to try and prove that he's AI, clearly without the technical capacity of these gentlemen that just showed in it literally 30, what was that, a minute and a half, that video, how quick they proved it not to be AI. And now all these people that see Aegon's face, they don't even listen to what he has to say. Instead, they just say, oh, well, if he's AI, then everything he's saying must be irrelevant. And that's exactly what Russian propaganda wanted to do to the public, is not get them interested in the facts that have been presented by Egon Cholakian.
Yes, exactly. Because even if you're not a specialist in AI, you can simply Google Dr. Egon Cholakian and his address at the United Nations. And he's been interviewed by, a journalist, and they sit in there, and the journalist is talking to him. That's published on their media channel.
On A News. We're here at COP29. I wanted to start by asking you about this link between climate change and global security.
Yeah, so the way they sit in there and he's talking to him on this conference, United Nations conference, right, on climate change, Egan is there. Egan is speaking to him, he's answering questions, and if this doesn't prove that he's not AI, well, I don't know. All the folks who have been writing these things in the comment section, because I'm seeing that too. I'm seeing videos of Egon Cholakian. He's really trying to get the point to you, but some folks in the comment section just like, oh, he's AI.
Right, but what about what he's saying? Like,
Yeah,
no.
what about what he's saying?
Happy to do so, but let me correct your English, my friend. It is not a link, and is
What about the hand motion? What do you think about his hand motion? Is that AI?
one in
Because some of them were saying his hands don't look real. Well, we debunked that as well in today's clip. But I think the most important thing is what you said earlier, that what is it that actually makes them try to hush him down so much? Because we've seen the campaign started about a year ago when multiple vloggers started basically hyping it up that he's not real, he's fake. And I've checked the comment section. You could see people who are clearly not English speakers who were writing either from Russia or from Czech Republic. Those were two strongholds of Russian cult of Alexander Dworkin, who's basically behind the Siberian campaign, who's one of the Russian ideologists, who's promoting the whole narrative of,
The
Egon not being
cultists.
real. Yes, and the cultist.
Using that term over and over and over again, and that's like a has the same effect as the AI does, right? Oh, that their AI, nothing they say is relevant now. Oh, it's done by Ukrainian cultists, nothing in this topic is now relevant for you to worry about. We did all the research, forget about it. So it's that strategy of using certain rhetoric to try and dismiss it altogether so that people by their critical thinking gets bypassed and they just kind of like sweep it under the rug without looking into it themselves. And as we're showing right here, literally a quick Google search, you can find live interviews with the guy. So it doesn't take much.
Yes. And apparently, the guy who is running the smear campaign against Egon Cholakian in Russia, he's himself running a cult. And there are multiple reports on this. We've covered this before, especially recently when there were multiple testimonies of his victims, basically talking about his perversions. We called it the cult of coprophilia in our previous videos. You can find it. And the coprophile Dworkin is basically who's running the cult himself. He is running this campaign against Dr. Egon Cholakian. Now, apparently, some bloggers were paid, even Western bloggers and American ones were paid to run this campaign. Some accepted the money, so some were misled. But effectively, what they did, they misled their viewers uh, into not paying attention what Egon Cholakian has to say. And instead of that, concentrate on, his hand motions. Yes, they're, very
Pictures in the background, or the fact that he's wearing two mics, not one mic, like all this crazy
well,
stuff.
look, exactly. Well, I've seen presidents giving speeches. They also wear into mics just because you want to have a backup. But yeah, apparently that campaign was done in order to discredit him. So the question I would ask, what is it that the man has to say that they trying to discredit him so much? They trying to shut him down, and they trying to shut your ears not to hear him, not to listen to him, not to pay attention to what he has to say.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into that. I'm sure people are curious about what it is that they don't want people to hear so badly.
Well, it's quite easy to look him up, and you're gonna find a lot of different resources, including him being on the main page of the Vatican's newsletter, and he's having a handshake with Pope Francis last summer. So, uh, the whole story of AI just doesn't make sense whatsoever. But I would say the main source of information about Dr. Egon Cholakian is his addresses, because if you want to actually get to know what this is all about, listen to what he has to say. And he has a channel on YouTube, Earth Safe Science Collaborative. That's also the name of his website. Link is right here. YouTube had some funny business with the search of Egon Cholakian's videos, but you can go to the channel, straight to the channel, and you can look up in the videos his addresses. And the most recent one about the earthquakes is probably the one that shocked me the most, because he's actually explaining the rise in the earthquakes in recent years. And he presents this graphs. I would like to show just some of them. So he's presenting this data on the progression of earthquakes, so magnitude and the number of events, and you can see how they are growing, and especially in recent years. And you have seen it yourself. You have seen what happened in Myanmar just a few weeks ago. You have seen the devastating earthquake in Turkey and Syria. You have seen the earthquakes all over the globe, and some of them are extremely alarming because the magnitude is going up. Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't see as many 5.0 and plus that you are seeing today. And what Dr. Egon Cholakian says, if you download the app, and you're actually gonna look up the earthquakes happening day by day, you will see that every other day you get 6 plus M, magnitude 6 plus earthquake, which is disturbing, which is extremely disturbing. That's not something that's supposed to be happening. And to accumulate the data and present you the annual report, it takes a lot of time, and unfortunately, in current circumstances. So you might do better if you just download the app and start verifying it yourself.
Yeah, just this year alone, I mean, we've had several above magnitude 7s. I think we opened up New Year's Day with like a 7.2 in Nepal. We had a recent, what was that, a 6.8 in Myanmar that shook Bangkok, Thailand, which is 800 miles away, by the way. We had, what was it, a 6.3 or something in Istanbul. And the alarming swarms, not just one big one, but weeks of swarms of earthquakes, like in Santorini, Greece, in Vesuvius, Nepal, what is
Italy,
it?
yes, Naples.
Naples, thank you, in Italy, right off the coast in Reykjavik, Iceland. The southern tip of South America just went off. Like, we're seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of swarms happening at weeks at a time. And people that aren't aware of Aegon's information are out and speaking about it. There's tons of professionals that have their own YouTube channels that are reporting on these things. But unfortunately, all they do is they report on the instances, and they can't exactly go in depth of why. And I think that's been a point I've been personally trying to make, is like, guys, it's great that people are aware and that people are talking about it, but the why and the solutions, Aegon is the only one bringing that stuff to the table. And that really is the most valuable information, because according to him, according to the ALLATRA scientists that have been studying geodynamics from a multidisciplinary approach over the last 20 years or so, they're the only ones that have really accumulated enough information to pinpoint why these things are happening. And in one of his earliest addresses, the Siberian magma plume was really targeted. He mentions it a few times in this video, but ultimately, the why, I think, is for me the most important part of this video, because where people are noticing, right? We just saw, what was it, Tennessee had a magnitude 4. Now this is being filmed on May 11th, and tons of people on TikTok are filming themselves like, did you guys just feel that? Like, I just woke up this morning to my bed shaking. And it's bizarre for them because they don't get earthquakes where they're at in Tennessee and Georgia, far away from the New Madrid fault line. So people are noticing. And it's just it's about time that this whole narrative, this bullshit that's been out there about Aegon being a AI and getting the information out to the people, it's high time.
Yes. The one graph I wanted to talk about, and the one that I think is the most showing like what actually going on. So the one graph that I want to talk about is really this one at 6 minutes 24 seconds, when he shows this one with three different graphs. So you can see 2017 at the bottom, 2024 in the middle, and 2025 on top. And those are earthquakes. And he goes, the smaller ones around M5, those are gray. And you can see how many of them were in 2017. They were the majority of earthquakes were those. And then green ones are higher magnitude. You can see them replacing the gray ones in 2024. Like you almost don't see the gray zone, gray days in here, right? Because it's addition of all the earthquakes of all magnitude that is happening during the day. And you can see that those are higher ones. Those are the earthquakes of M 5.8 and higher. A few seconds after this, he shows that graph. So you can see gray being replaced by green and yellow. And recently, take a look how 2025 starts. You get almost all days, like no gray zone at all. They have been replaced with a higher magnitude. And the other ones, take a look, yellow, red, and that brown color is 7.6 to 8.2. So everything is rising pretty much severely. And the most important thing, he explains why. And here's the answer to why Russian state media are trying to silence him so much, because the reason for all of this is in Russia. Egon goes to this part around 14 minutes. He explains how the Earth's core is being heated up by external cosmic influence and why this process leading to basically increase of pressure in our planet, and that huge flow of magma, so-called magmatic plume, is rising underneath Siberia. Increased pressure inside of our planet leads to tension on the surface, and that's where you get all the earthquakes from. And according to the ice core data and according to the soil analysis, this is something that has been happening every 12,000 years. You can see that in soil deposits and in those ash layers in the ice cores. But every other cycle is even more devastating. And right now we are approaching the rise of that moment. Plus, in addition to that, we humans polluted the ocean with micro and nanoplastics, which disrupted ocean's ability to transmit heat into the atmosphere. So our cooling system, AC, is broken. Instead of cooling down the planet, ocean just keeps on absorbing heat and heats everything even more.
Yeah, and I really like, for those of you that are going to go ahead and watch this, he puts together, there's very simple experiments that you can do that kind of show the effects of nano and microplastics and how they operate. So I really like that they added that to the video, because it makes it very easy to understand the electrostatic charge that gets held by microplastics, and being that every square inch of our ocean is holding these nano and microparticles. Like, it's safe to say that it's going to have some form of a effect on the working systems of our planet.
Yes, and over here you can see how plastic with a static charge basically affects any sort of material. So not just metals, but anything else. You can see a wooden piece over there also affected by the static charge, which is insane, right? Because we have microplastic everywhere. Imagine what is happening to your bodies, to your neurons in your brain, which is supposed to be using those electric, charges to interact with each other. Isn't that the one of the reasons why we have so many chronic disease right now and the whole, rise in this sort of illnesses?
Yeah, it makes a good reference to what was the recent documentary that was put out about the effects of microplastics.
Oh yeah, he actually talks about it in his video. That's Trap for Humanity.
Right.
And that's the one that is, it's based on facts, on facts, on facts, all the scientific research regarding how exactly it's affecting your health.
I was going to say the ALLATRA
Yep.
volunteers and scientists, they didn't say, the jury's decided we've done all the research. It affects your health. Don't worry about the rest. It's a good hour and a half or so of actual data and information to show that what they're saying is backed by evidence, unlike the Russian propaganda there.
Exactly. And you know what is really important in Dr. Egon Cholakian's address is this part when he says, look, how the earthquakes progressed from 2017 to 2025, right? We went from magnitude 4 to magnitude 6 happening every other day. And he goes, right now we have a solution to the problem. We can do controlled drilling in the area of Siberia where the magmatic plume is rising, where the problem is the most severe. So we can do that, release the pressure, and we're going to be fine for another 250 million years because that's the time it took that Siberian magmatic plume to appear again after the recent eruption, which caused the biggest mass extinction event in the history of our planet. So right now, we are approaching that point where earthquakes will go even higher. So he goes, when you're gonna see magnitude 7 happening every other day, like M6 is happening right now, that will be a sign that it's too late to do the degassing, that it's too late to do the drilling because you can cause an eruption. So friends, I think this is some serious information over there. I would really suggest to all of you to put aside all the, conditioning from vloggers, from Russian propaganda, and actually use your own brain, right? There is very important information, and there is a lot of efforts into shut this information down. And there is a whole campaign against people who were trying to speak up about the Siberian magmatic plume in Russia. They have been locked. They're in prisons right now. Some of them tortured. Some of them lost their lives because they were trying to speak up about this. There is Dr. Egon Cholakian who started talking about the very same thing, trying to warn us about the rise of magma, about this whole situation. And this is no joke when this is happening like a few days ago in Tennessee, where it's not supposed to be happening, and all over the US, you can track those down. Yeah. He is trying to say something, and Russian media don't want you to hear that. Well, thanks God we have professionals here in the US, like those guys who took 30 seconds to actually debunk all the propaganda. And here's the info, right? If the only thing that was stopping you from taking this seriously was the Russian state media narrative that it's fake news, well, Americans saved us all from 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 this fake news, right? Those specialists. So check it out for yourself. Check the information because one thing they cannot argue, even Russian state media, are the facts that are presented in the videos. So verify those yourself and make your own conclusions. Yeah, be smart, be curious, and if you want us to actually make an episode about this address by Dr. Egon Cholakian about the intensity of earthquakes, about the rise and the threat it poses not only to Siberia, right? Egon says multiple times, if it was only Siberia that can be affected, I wouldn't be talking about this. I'm talking about this because it affects the US and he cares about the US, right? Those Russian state media, he is extremely Russophobic. He's a patriot of the US and he cares about the US. So he's trying to actually bring this information to our notice. Let's be smart about it. Let's use our brains. Let's not buy into any sort of propaganda, no matter where it's coming from. Let's study the facts and make our own conclusions. And if you have any questions, or any thoughts regarding this, write them in the comment section below. And if you want us to make the next episode about this video by Dr. Egon Cholakian, write about this in the comment section, and we're gonna do so.
Right on.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Steven, and see you in our
Thanks,
next
Dilly.
episode.